This is the second time within a few months where they just had the SGP thing on their like DK pick six thing where it like screwed up and a bunch of people robbed the bank. And now it's happening again. Like who is in the trading room? If I'm a suit, I'm like everybody's out.
Disclaimer. The content presented in this show is intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions expressed are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of any individuals or organizations mentioned. Statements made about public figures or entities are based on publicly available information and are not intended to harm or defame any person or business. This show relies on fair use of social media posts, which are presented in good faith for the purpose of commentary and criticism. Viewers and listeners are advised to form their own opinions. Is bankroll management overrated? Is the best way to responsibly gamble just by betting more? And of course, we're going to be talking about the minus 10,000 cashout disaster that occurred on DraftKings right here on Circle Back here on the Circles Off channel, which is part of the Hammerbag Network and presented by Kalshi. It's the show, as you know, where we cover the latest and greatest news that comes from gambling Twitter. We're back with the Friday crew after a week off. As you can see at Circles Off, we put some work into maybe some new graphics, some new designs that you see on screen, and also some new content coming soon, which we'll touch about a little bit later on. But we're here with the Friday crew, as I said, for today's show. My name is Jacob Gramegna. I am a creator and producer here at the Hammerbag Network. Down in the bottom left, we have pro sports bettor Mike, aka Mr. PeanutBettor. Down in the bottom right corner of the screen, we have the co-host on the Hit the Books YouTube channel, the Hammers College Football Content Division, Joey Knish, and Porter of BA Analytics joining us as our fourth in the top right. Porter, how you doing today? Like you said before we started recording here, it's been a while since we had you on, so good to have you back.
Yep. Busy season with all the sports running. Things are slowing down just a little bit. Time to hit the media.
And Knish, you're showing off the new studio. Work in progress, but good to have you in an actual chair, not in your kitchen.
Work in progress. We've moved from the kitchen to the bedroom that's been allocated for the new home office. I still got a little work to do. We were discussing some very detailed IT specific pre-show in terms of how to set up a dual monitor, which thankfully a family member will be taking care of. But it's going good. Look forward to. I got to get a few other things going in here, but the problem is when you don't set up anything yourself, you have to wait on people to do it. So that's been the delay.
Yeah, it's not like any normal person could ever figure out how to plug in two monitors and set them side by side and go into the settings and ensure that the dual monitor is set up. No, it's impossible to do.
As the boomer of the show, no, that is not in my skill set.
You know, I do find it incredible, like the caliber of sports bettors that I've worked with in working on Circles Off and at the Hammer. The ability they have to go to great lengths to be able to bet sports professionally, and then like the most simple IT tasks are just impossible to them. It is truly astonishing, and it will never cease to amaze me. But regardless, everyone can make mistakes. Even one of the biggest recreational sportsbook and their traders, as we saw with the leadoff topic for today's show, which is on this. So Eric Patterson at ePat Golf didn't really maybe quite understand what he had stumbled into here when he said, show me a worse outright board you can. It was the outright for the Cognizant Classic, a PGA Tour event, where every single golfer was listed at minus 10,000 to be the winner. So maybe to an untrained person, not super familiar with what's going on here, they're saying, okay, well, they're adjusting the odds, and maybe they are, but if you had already placed your wager prior to this, of course, minus 10,000 would potentially trigger a massive cash out. That is exactly what happened here. This made very large rounds as quick as it happened. This happened right before we went live on Monday. So we weren't able to talk about it on Monday for Circle Back, but we saved it here for the Friday crew. So a bettor had $5 on Justin Hicks at plus 500,000 and was able to cash out for nearly 22 grand. Somebody had Brendan Todd plus 450,000. $5 wager cashed out for nearly $20,000. And I'm sure there were a lot more people who did this. I did hear of people who were able to do this and were able to get the money into their bank account as well. So it wasn't as if they weren't able to pull this money out if they did it quick enough. Eric Patterson added that DK got cooked on cashouts by putting everyone at minus 10,000 while adjusting odds. And our old friend Bo L. Wagner, Bo knows, says DK cooked my account over 4 years ago on a legitimate bet. These accounts will never see the light of day again. But for someone making, small wagers, outright golf bets, $20,000 is worth a lot more than having that account. So of course you should be comfortable losing that account. But let's get into just maybe exactly what happened here. Let's start off with you, Knish. Do you have any idea how does something like this happen?
The funny part, this is the second time within a few months where they just had the SGP thing on their DK pick 6 thing where it screwed up and a bunch of people robbed the bank, and now it's happening again. Who is in the trading room? If I'm a suit, I'm like, everybody's out. How does this happen? And it's not only happening, people are it happens a few months ago. And now it's almost like people have got as soon as this happens, I got to pull the money out. So you're getting a bunch of withdrawals processing. I don't know what the oversight process is here, but it's also the fact that you've got these, very recreational bettors. I know in one of our group chats, a friend of the pizza man was talking about the guy's had a lifetime loser account. He's a $5, $10, $20 bettor. This happened. He was able to pull it out, and now he's up. So your whole P&L on this guy is all screwed up. And so I don't know. It's happened a number of times. And you know what? If you got it and you were able to get the money out, good for you. I'm not sure how this is now a redundant occurrence at DraftKings again. So yeah, a rough one for old DK, but hey, if you were able to get it in out of there. And I agree, the whole Bo Wagner, you cooked your account. If you've got a 500 to 1 that's paying on a $5 bet, you're not caring about the account. You're taking the money and boom, you're out of there.
You can find a new DraftKings account.
Yes.
You'll be okay. You can take that payout. Mike, you've got experience in trading, so maybe give us a bit of insight into how something like this could possibly happen.
You're talking to someone who once put up a college basketball second half line without first inputting the score from the first half. So if you run the sim then and put it up, I'll let you know that it tends to come in a little bit lower than if you actually enter the points in. So I think this goes back to, so if you're DK and you are kind of building your product to be playing all these lotto type games, you're adding in SGPs, all these very complicated things, you're just creating more areas for your stuff to break. So DK has, everybody wants to create new markets and everybody wants to add all these features. And now you can have the SGP here. We want everybody to be cash out all the time. And yes, those are overall, they're not going to be offering plus EV spots for these people. They're going to be raking in fees and kind of tricking people on the things. But you really, when you're testing it out and seeing, how will this go? How much will this make us, et cetera? I think that you probably lose out the complexity of there's just more things to break now than there ever has been. And especially for DK, if you think about, I would guess that mistakes like this happen at other books as well, but you just don't have everybody vulturing them, checking all the time like they are on DK. So if something like this happens at Bet Rivers, the 3 people that are betting at Bet Rivers are going to get a significant payout. It's just much different when you're kind of the top dog as DK is. And as they keep adding these things, it just leaves more and more spots to break.
All right, we'll go over to you, Porter. Surely some jobs lost for something like this. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I would say the real problem is all the jobs lost before this happened. So, when a company like DK is just endlessly making cuts or, Peanut Butter here's a former trader, not a current trader. All the real traders, eventually they leave. They're not paid enough there. This is what happens when you're competing against people that are either underqualified, underpaid, don't care as much, don't have incentive. So it's just natural that you're going to see these kind of events occur over time. Especially when you're offering tons and tons of markets with tons and tons of people trying to attack. And then this is a lesson for everyone. I think that maybe back in the earlier days, you would keep your money on the account in these spots thinking things would be okay. But I would definitely say today, it's you got to be snap getting the money out of there, doing everything you can. it's not just enough to win or recognize the situation. At the end of the day, you can win the bet, but if the bet doesn't hit your bank account, you didn't do anything.
So for anyone wondering, if you do, let's say you are one of the people who are able to cash this out, you have a huge balance and you were able to withdraw that immediately, DraftKings would likely put a negative balance into your account. All you got to do is just not deposit there ever again. But spots like DraftKings and other recreational spots, like the top ones who want to really compete in the market, one of the selling points is often how quick the cash outs are, or not the cash outs, but the withdrawals are. So if you're able to withdraw your money, it usually hits your bank account pretty quickly. And in an instance like this, it kind of came back to hurt them because they weren't able to stop a lot of these from happening. Like I said, I mean, we have an example with Rob's friend and some other people I've seen online able to get this into their account. That account's over because you're going to have the negative balance. And as Bo said, DraftKings probably didn't let that account see the light of day again. But you've made such a win here that, people who are down lifetime are now up a lot lifetime with some of these wagers. So absolutely that was the right call. But a good lesson, like we've said here, where you've got to make sure that money gets into your account as quick as possible in situations like this. And people are already privy to that with DraftKings. So perhaps somebody who was involved in both was able to figure out what they had to do in this situation. We'll get.
By the way, there's going to be haters in the comment, by the way, that are saying that we're all encouraging doing like unethical things, get the money out. That's not your money. But I welcome those comments down there. You guys become friends with the sportsbooks.
I'll make it clear. I am encouraging you to be unethical and take your money out of the account before they can stop you.
I also think that guy who tweeted out the look at this leaderboard odd, like what a disgrace or whatever. It's a good example. If you see the probability of one thing messed up, even if you can't take advantage of it, start looking around. Like that means that somewhere in the sim, something else is messed up and you want to immediately start to check every market, things like that. So that's a good, if you think something's wrong, even if you can't bet that market, see how it affects other markets.
Good point there as well. We're going to get moving with the show in just a moment here. Before we do, I want to remind you guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you're subscribed. We appreciate each and every one of you that watch the show, especially the people that watch the show every week. But there are people out there who are watching who aren't subscribed yet. I'll forgive you. We can call it an honest mistake, but do me a favor and subscribe right now as we push for 22,000 subscribers here on Circles Off. The larger the channel grows, the more content we can provide to you. We have a lot of exciting stuff coming up for you in the very near future as well. You're going to want to keep an eye on, and it's easy to do that by being subscribed to the channel. Second piece of content on the show today, question if it's an end of an era. Fight Ghost posted a long tweet here talking about how Bookmaker, very popular sports book in the sharp betting community, showcased that Bookmaker was refusing some of their action. Now, Bookmaker is one of those places that takes the sharp action, is able to shape the lines based off of that sharp action, which is why sharp bettors enjoy using such a product. But they messaged Fight_Ghost here. Thanks for holding your times really values. Just customer service here. The decision was made recently to no longer offer lines mentioned to any customers who are not considered to be recreational players. I apologize, but this means that until further notice, we will no longer be able to offer these markets to you. So I don't know if this is a specific market necessarily or if it's a shift for Bookmaker. But Porter, I'm sure you've got experience with Bookmaker. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, usually when you see these kind of events, it's very shocking and you're kind of in denial, hard to accept, especially when something's been going on as long as Bookmaker's been kind of taking decent volume on sharp action. But on previous shows that have been on, people will say Pinnacle is sharp, but then underneath their breaths on another episode, people are like, oh, Pinnacle's changed. Things have changed. They don't take as much action. Numbers, open up later. And you kind of see this leak across other sharpish books. This is just kind of the industry changing, and some things last a long time. Some things don't last as long. Obviously, Bookmaker's been around taking sharper action for a bit of time. And so it's a little bit harder to swallow when you see something long-standing change. But at the end of the day, it's just another curveball being thrown to the sharp bettor that does make the ecosystem worse. But you'll see balance, I'm not saying, I don't know who Fight Ghost is, but imagine he leaves the industry. Well, that would make lines softer somewhere else. So you do see ebb and flow of things changing. When you see something that looks horrifically bad, you should sometimes take a step back and think, well, something positive eventually probably might come out of this. Because at the end of the day, sports betting's still been around now, I don't know, 50, 60 years, money line spread started. It's changed over time. That's all. And this is a negative change again to the industry. But I do believe, this is kind of showing a beginning of the end to some of the sharp books just willfully taking a little bit sharper action. And by the way, this should kind of alert you to, hey, why is this book taking my action still anymore moving forward? Because it, starts here, but usually this will climb to larger and larger markets over time.
I do have to appreciate the fact that they were just very open about the message, at least, not being super ambiguous about it. But definitely, if you've been using this for a while the way it was, it'd be annoying to see that sort of change. Knish, we'll go to you next. What's your take on this?
So this a totally unvalidated theory I have on this specific would be that I know through like third hand a little bit of Fight Ghost, and then reading some of the comments, it appears they did a little bit of a sweep on like combat sport, boxing, UFC. My thought process here, which could be totally unvalidated, is they wanted to weed out some people who they thought had what we'll call inside information in certain fights, or just connections to camps and that, being ahead of moves. So I know Fight Ghost is the guy who gets some whispers from certain places. There were some people in the comments talking about MMA. So I think that in combination where it's like, okay, we don't want to be involved in information markets per se. We want to be involved in, the bigger liquidity sports where people are trading, people are modeling in that, whether it be NFL in that. We don't want to be as much in sports where there's a lot more, rumors that fixes are in, information trades at a big premium. So my thought would be that they are, I don't know if the downsizing is the word, but wanting to get out of the fight game sharp business, especially because I know some other offshores especially take significantly higher limits on like UFC and stuff and that. So probably just a business decision to say, okay, we're, like how Pinnacles can, rolled it back in a number of sports, but soccer, they're still in a lot of cases, big. Your game day NFL and that. Probably just a business decision from bookmaker to say, okay, we don't want to be the sharp MMA or boxing book, line setting book anymore. We're going to kind of get out of that business.
And over to you, Mike. How do you feel about this?
Call me Kirk Evans because I'm about to send Pierre for the sports book. I think that bookmaker, if you're talking about like these odd markets that nobody is betting into, that aren't that efficient, and you're not getting a ton of action on these, I don't mind books saying, hey, we still want to offer this. It's a good product for the recreationals. We want to keep that rec money coming in. We want to be able to offer lines to recs, but we also don't want to get just killed by the sharps in these specific markets. You see this Bet Online does something similar where they're like, hey, you can take a little bit of props, but we're going to limit you on that. And then, all the other weird markets that we put up, if you're any good at them, we're going to limit you hard. But when it comes to like major sports and stuff, we're going to go ahead and let you take your chunk. There's like this binary positioning we do with books. Oh, they're a sharp book. Oh, they're a soft book. There should be room kind of in the middle for, hey, we want to offer this to keep Rex on our platform, because in the end, you want Rex on their platform if you want to be betting into these places. But they also need to, weigh that versus offering markets to everybody at all times. So if I'm just like looking at it objectively from bookmaker, also maybe factors in somewhat that they have some US plays and prime sportsbook and stuff. If you're trying to get investing and funding, being able to say, hey, we offer all these markets that nobody actually bets on is probably good. You see this. I mean, books love to talk about how many markets they have that, nobody bets into. It's honestly, I think sometimes it's just having extra markets up to say that you have them up. But I think that bookmaker, I'm not going to give them too hard of a time, because I think this is pretty reasonable, depending on what markets that they're taking away.
All right, great insight there. Would love to see some of the comments that some people have on this situation here. Maybe people who are sharper bettors. Porter talked about how things are changing. There's a shift in the industry kind of going on. Maybe talk about the shifts that you've seen and the shifts that you're experiencing. Would love to get that sort of insight in the comment section down below, and we can see where opinions may differ on something just like that. Next up on the show, we're going to go to this one from Alex Monahan, who talked about bankroll management potentially being overrated. He called it overrated and said, most of y'all lose money gambling because you're ass at gambling. How much you bet doesn't relate to that. So Alex Monahan made his name in the industry with OddsJam, that tool, that product. And I think a lot of what kind of goes into odds jamming, as we'll call it, is bankroll management. But curious what you think on this one, Mike. You're interested in this topic.
He's right, but not to the subgroup that he's talking to. If you're going to do the top-down style, pick off the edges, try to get as much volume as possible, hitting these lines that are off, and you're doing that, there is going to be your bankroll management is going to largely, it's going to impact your bankroll growth a ton because, you're betting lower ROI, so the margin of error is smaller. If you are betting other stuff, I think that if you can't figure out bankroll management, it's pretty intuitive to get pretty close on bankroll management. I'm not saying that you're going to have Kelly memorized or anything like that, but it's pretty, whether you're betting on a 5% edge or a 7% edge, those are actually, I found at least, it's pretty hard to exactly quantify unless you're doing some kind of top down, which ones are which. So to me, if you aren't, sharp enough that bankroll management eventually isn't a problem and you get to your limits anyways, then it's, I don't think that bankroll management is many people's limiting factor, to be honest. I think either you're going to be good enough that you beat the markets, and then if you are, you can figure out the bankroll management in the end. But I just don't think that it's much of an issue for most people who are winning.
Okay. How about Porter on this one? What's your take on this?
Absolutely. So I think what he's doing here is a little bit of advertising, even though I know he's sold OddsJam or whatever. But effectively, he's saying when he's saying bankroll management is overrated, he's talking about the people not using OddsJam, because he's saying they're ass because they're basically not using top-down method or whatever he thinks is good for betting. So in reality, though, he's 100% right. This is it's funny because so many of the lessons from poker, which kind of predates the rush of sports betting getting famous, are the same thing, where people were like, oh, I play lower stakes, I have a lot of units, so it's safer. I'm like, no, if you're losing a big bet an hour, eventually you're going to go broke. So the same thing happens in sports betting. Doesn't matter how, unless you're betting pennies at a time. But if you're betting a 1-2% of your bankroll, which is considered kind of standard for most beginners who are not doing anything advanced mathematically to figure out bankroll growth and risk, in reality, they're all going broke because their bets, their ass. So even though I don't love to give Alex Monahan his props, the statement itself is right. He's still just, I think, kind of advertising to use OddsJam, and if you don't, your ass and going to go broke anyway.
Well, not to give promo to OddsJam, but if you generally are just coin flipping, don't know what you're doing. OddsJam does help in the early stages. It can at least help people who are clueless understand it a little
directionally.
bit better. Yeah, it could definitely point them in the right direction. So I can kind of see what he's saying here. Knish, look like you might disagree something.
Did Monahan delete his old account, or did it get banned?
I don't know.
Because this is a new account that he's tweeting from, not the old one where he created OddsJam from. I should have maybe brought this up in the pre-show so we could have done that instead of doing research on the fly. But I noticed because I went to look at this, from his old account, he had me blocked. He used to spar when I was trolling OddsJam. And now this is a new account that appears like he's no longer affiliated at all with any of the odds, sold and whatever.
This account has it still has OddsJam tagged in the bio.
He's doing a rebrand though. He said that before.
Yeah, maybe this is more geared towards personal sort of content rather than promoting OddsJam.
I think so. So because he's also been tweeted some more inflammatory stuff that usually people who are trying to do. So Joey K's got a little bit of I wouldn't trust Monahan as far as I could throw him under any, my opinion, under any circumstances. So my senses are up here. So my guess is he's probably got some new product coming.
Oh, for sure. There's a new venture he's selling to
Yeah.
the lowest common denominator.
But he could be, now that we figured out the missing @ signal and we've gotten that mystery solved. I think like whether he's trying to sell something or not, the point remains. If you are a winning sports bettor, like it can change the way the number grows. But if you are a winning sport, it's never going to turn a negative into a positive bankroll management.
Yeah.
So if you're betting at, like Porter said when you're talking about poker, if you're losing at the game, whether you lose fast or lose slow, the number's still negative. And it's the same with sports betting, whether you win or whether you lose, or whether you, properly grow it in the most mathematical, precise way possible or not, it's either going to be positive or negative based on if the bets are more likely to win than the odds you got them at.
Well, to a certain extent, because if you could be a winning bettor, but if you're not funded enough, your bankroll's not high enough, you could be a winning bettor and just suffer from variance at a certain stage. Because
That's more like a secondary. That's more like a secondary problem, not like a root problem.
Yeah, you could essentially run out of bankroll. You could do it but to me, if you are winning at sports betting, it's very rarely you're also so like not in control of your actions that you're just going bust. Like you might not grow it at the best way. You might be losing spots because, I bet too much early on and now my bankroll is like lower than it should be and I had to lower my unit size, things like that. But if you are going bust, you probably suck at betting anyways.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Most of it, like I said, fair enough on the topic. Before we go to our next topic here, shout out to our presenting sponsor here on the Circles Off channel, Kalshi, the prediction market that we've been working with for a long time now, because it's a product that we back. It's a product that we are aligned with. We think it's a really good fit for our brand, and we think it's potentially a really good fit for you as well. See why prediction markets are the new wave and why they've become so popular over the last year by heading to the link in the description and using our sign-up link to sign up to Kalshi today. I mean, get involved with a great product, and you can support the show and our channel at the exact same time. But back to the content here. We have one from Shane Trail who says, as a sports bettor, if you're easily willing to chase a loss or place a bet solely based out of boredom, then your wager size is too small. There needs to be equilibrium that makes you care about losing the wager, which will inevitably make you a more responsible sports bettor. So I'm going to paraphrase. He is essentially saying that in order to responsibly gamble, you need to bet more. That's kind of what I get here. We'll start with Mike on this one. What do you think?
This is the dumb version of the Manahan point that he was trying to say earlier. The idea that, if you just start betting large enough, then you'll care more, and that's what will help you win. I mean, this is like saying, if it becomes bad enough for your health that once you're eating a ton, it's going to really kill you, then, nobody has ever kept going past that point. No, just because you care more about the wagers that you're placing doesn't mean they're more likely to win. It comes down to actually being able to look at things objectively, and no amount of want or grit that he's talking about will help you with that thing. So, I mean, it's pretty idiotic.
In my experiences, when I've ventured into larger wagers, I feel more compelled to make a bad decision after the fact. Not necessarily saying I've make that bad decision, but if I make a larger wager than normal because there's just a big edge and it loses, I feel much more compelled to try and get that money back. So I feel like this has an adverse effect in what he's portraying. We'll go to you, Porter. What do you think?
This is horrendous. The analogy for here is drugs. Effectively, if you create your baseline a little bit higher, all of a sudden things will get better. Like what this is really like fool's errand. This is actually effectively, this is not just adverse. This effectively guarantees that you will go broke and lose, because all that's really going to happen is you will continuously raise your baseline higher and higher and higher. Why would it just like naturally stop at a certain? Also, how does he really decide what the wager size is randomly saying? This is literally a one-way recipe to go broke.
You're right. Drugs is a perfect analogy for that.
Much better than the weight one I was trying to go with. Yeah, you guys, if you ever have a cocaine problem, just start going with more and more cocaine. It will become too expensive and you won't have a problem anymore.
Right. Knish, go ahead.
Let me say, Shane, loyal Hit the Books listener in the chat. Love him. So got to have his back here. I don't know what these nits are talking about. I will say that I like Porter, and to kind of piggyback on Porter's point there, where if I wanted to place a wager now at this point that would like get my heart rate up and the blood like it used to, I would have to bet, not to be like, I'm betting too big now, but I would have to bet on such like liquid markets where I know for sure I don't have an edge, that at some point, yes, it's going to go bad. And I feel like you see that happen to people in this industry who have had edges at some point. And then as you try and scale up, if you still want that rush, that feeling, commensurate to your net worth or your bankroll, you're going to have to start betting different things as your edge is decreasing. Go ahead. No, because
also like a more logical, if you're going to go this path, like this type of comment, the more logical thing is just like work a little bit harder and find more edges. If you need the adrenaline or the rush, just go and find more plays. Don't create a formula to go broke.
Yeah, if you're not able to beat the markets you're in, keep shifting down into markets that are easier and easier. Like Joey said, like if I wanted to get to the point where I'm like, hey, I really need to start caring about every win, whether it wins or loses, I'd start betting college football and get my ass kicked on game day. Like it makes sense. Like actually what you should be doing is, trying to go when you figure out you can't beat an area and holy shit, I'm losing like in this spot. Now I need to go into an area, like go be the big fish in a little pond and beat up on the dummies.
It's not perfect. It's not perfect, but almost like 100% better to reverse what he said would be better than what he wrote. Literally, like say this. I'm not saying that's like a great solution, but it's definitely better than this solution.
If you're easily willing to chase a loss, the responsible thing to do is bet less, just in case.
I will say, in his defense, which it took me a minute to come up with one. There was a time where, like 10, 15 years ago, if I just wanted to throw something on a game where, I could throw like 10 or 20 bucks just to give myself, if I had no edge, no capping, not moving this or filling it for anybody, just this game's on, I'm going to throw a wager on it or a prop on it. That amount does increase as you get like more, like wealthier, more like have more money at your disposal. Where nowadays, if I know I don't have an edge or something, I'm gonna throw it like I'm watching, I don't know, some Olympic event or something. It's at least $100. You know what I'm saying? It's at least 100 to click it. That doesn't totally align with what he's saying, but it's the best defense I can do.
That doesn't prove his point at all. That just means you got more money.
That has nothing to do with his point. Nothing.
I'm sure
he meant to say, it just didn't come across.
If you're starting to chase your losses, as the key North Star of the show once said, you lost your mojo, sit out a weekend.
Yeah.
No, increase your base, bet more.
There's definitely areas of life where adding jeopardy to the situation enhances your ability. Like in sports, you want to train with jeopardy. That helps make you a better player, a better athlete. But when it comes to sports betting, I don't believe that's the case. And sure, I'll try and help you defend Knish here, because I'm sure he meant well, but like this is off base. The best way to avoid wanting to chase losses is building yourself up to a point where you trust you're going to win it back with the process you've built, not by betting more. Yeah. All right. We've got some more interesting advice here. This one on the industry of handicappers and people who sell picks, because there's a bit of discontent for going at each other. At Peter_4th21 says, I have a challenge for all cappers. Just mind your business. Stop talking about other cappers and what they do or might do wrong. Everyone is trying to get bread in some shape or form, but bottom line is, stop pocket watching people. You look obsessed and weird. Mind your business. Another person added, Guapze says, as a capper, why are you dissing another capper? Focus on your own lane and clients. Never understood that shit. I see it all the time up here. The main goal is to beat the books, not each other's head. Interesting take there. Obviously, we do a lot of, I guess we'll call it bashing on a show like this and on this channel. But maybe, do we need to stop Knish?
No, what? No, that's like that. Anyone that says that is in your typical like, oh, I had a losing run, or I'm selling picks, and I don't want to be criticized. That's all it comes from. Like, yes, I get if someone's just posting on for fun on the timeline or any of that, okay. But in the vast majority of cases, this is someone that has a product to sell or is selling on WAP, Dub Club, any of those type of things, that doesn't want to get criticized because one, that's how they probably fund their betting, or two, that's how they're like making a living. So it's like, oh, that's not good for business. If we say, oh, let's all just mind our own business, and that's not life in any way. That's not politics, sports, movie, any genre. There is critique. And there is accountability, and there is the popular spirit, the public sentiment. So this whole like everybody just needs to mind their own business and no, that's not reality. That's not real life. And you know what? If you suck, you should be called out for it. So and if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. If you don't want if you don't, all it has to do. If you don't like that, I can't take this. Then stop posting plays or stop doing what you're doing.
How about you, Mike? What's your take on this?
Logging on to twitter.com and getting mad that people are dunking on you is like going to a Broadway show and being like, why the hell are they singing all the time in this? I don't understand. It's like going to a musical and not expecting someone to sing. That's what
I've done that once. I went into the Joker movie and I was mad that they were singing at a movie that was branded as a musical. So I guess it happens.
Me too.
It's just that's what the platform was made for. That's what it's going to be used. People are like, oh, just like what did you expect a bunch of people talking about gambling are going to do? You can't talk about, nobody wants to talk about how you win. Nobody should talk about how others lose. Nobody wants to talk about sports specific stuff. It's like, I don't understand what they think that people are going to talk about all day, or what you think you're going to get out of this platform back.
Porter, anything to add?
Yeah, this is way worse than what the bottom two screens are saying. I'm going to retranslate what's actually written here. What he is saying is, I steal from people. I affect people negatively. Don't criticize me because that's how I make money, and that's okay. I learned like speaking for him, that it's okay to do these things. And by you criticizing me, you are possibly affecting me, probably not affecting them, but probably helping them because the people don't understand what's really going on. But the idea is we're trying to help. People think we're criticizing. No, what's really happening is he is believing like either culturally or, socioeconomically, like that he might actually believe that this is okay. Now, the second person's comment is sort of disconnected from this. He doesn't really understand that the first person is literally saying, I make people lose. I'm stealing money, but that's okay. That's how I learned to make money. The second person's disconnected. He actually thinks that the first person, Peter Forth, is talking about working together and beating up the books. He's not. He's talking about working against his clients, but pretending that he's working for his clients.
Yeah, it's just it just really pisses me off when people who sell picks think that they're operating like it's not a standard business. Like if you sell a product that is not just like a widely known, like whether or not this is a good product. So something that's a little bit more confusing, like a good quality knife or a wristwatch. Some of these, like there are certain intricacies about your product that somebody who knows a lot about the industry will be able to pick out and say, okay, this is way overpriced. Like you shouldn't be buying this. This is an awful product that they're selling. That's not like attacking someone trying to make their money. That's trying to protect the people from spending their money on it. Like, look, you can make your money in any way you want, but I think people are well within their right to question it and ask people who are purchasing that to question it and stop them from putting their money in something that, look, I don't expect these guys to be winning bettors here. Go ahead,
if you were a financial advisor, imagine if your financial advisor was like, yo, we got to stop talking crap about other stock picks, bro. We got to figure out what stocks we're going to beat the market together. Like if you don't want people talking about the product that you're providing, it's typically a pretty big sign that your product sucks.
Yes, absolutely. Anyways, on with the show here. I said earlier on in the show, as I was asking you to subscribe, I'll ask you again, but I did say that there's some exciting stuff coming to the Circles Off channel. We have a lot of stuff. We're putting in a lot of work. That's why we had the week off. We spent a lot of time working on potential new content for the channel, a little bit of extra graphics, Lots of fun stuff coming, so I implore you to get subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on anything we have coming up. Don't have enough to tease it just yet, but that'll be coming very, very soon. Just know we're working very hard on bringing better content more often to you, the viewer or the listener here on the channel. Drop a like as well if you are enjoying so far. Let's get into some NBA talk here. We had this one from Tom Haberstroh, who says, the new 65-game rule might deliver Cade Cunningham the MVP in the NBA. SGA's eligibility is in jeopardy. Wemby, Luka, and Jokic on pace to be disqualified. I wrote about it here. And he showcases a graphic here that has the percentage of games that the player has played based on the amount of games that their team has played and the amount of games that they have missed, and then has used that percentage of games played to set a pace for the amount of games that they will play this season. And in doing so, he has revealed that Doncic, Wembanyama, and Jokic will not be able to hit the 65-game mark. Shea will only just hit it. Therefore, an extra injury could spell danger. Cade is the safe play because he's on pace for 73 games played. Now, interesting to use the data in such a way on percentage of games played. What this data, and I hope you guys agree with me, what this data does not account for is the player's desire to hit 65 games and knowing that they must hit 65 games to be eligible for awards. I think that's the main problem here, Mike. What do you have to say on it?
No, that's not the main problem. The main problem is, I went to visit my niece last weekend, and she was, at the rate she's growing, at this point, I'm kind of worried she might be 70 foot tall by the time she grows up. Just based on, she improved from this much, and if you just take the growth from one point to the next, it just applies on every single year she's going to be alive. The problem is they missed a period of time due to a specific injury, a large chunk of time. That has no predictive value on the rest of it has some, a very small percentage. But if you miss you miss games for injuries that are discrete chunks. So if you miss 10 games for an injury for a hamstring, and if you miss that and then you play 10 games, it doesn't mean you're more likely to play 50% of games moving forward. So these happen in these chunks, and to project it over the course of the season makes no sense. Even intuitively, one player, I think it's Jokic there, he's missed, I think every single one, but one of the games was missed in the same stretch. So why would you use just the season pace to project out for the rest of the season? Why not use his pace of the last 5 games, and he's going to play 100% of the games for the season? So, it's horrible math. This Tom Haberstroh used to be kind of smart. I think he was a pretty decent stats guy for ESPN, was pretty talented young guy, and has just really kind of made worse and worse content as the years have gone on.
All right, let's go to you, Knish. You were in agreement there. Anything
Yeah, there is no most of those guys on the list, Wemby, Doncic, and they're playing currently. So as PB's saying, injuries aren't. It's not a load management. It's almost like he tried to make a load management extrapolation, but it's not a load management. You're either going to miss 2 weeks with a grade 1 hamstring strain or a sprained ankle or nothing. So it's not like I'm going to miss every third game because of the pace I've been on for the year. So with that said, though, Detroit, Cade Cunningham, all we need at this SGA. It's funny because there's a chance that the outcome of his data actually, the end statement of Cunningham occurs, and then it comes back and says, oh no, where if Jokic missed a game, this SGA, it's lingering a little bit, and then who's to say who's the third choice? Also, I'm looking around at the odds today. A lot of people are getting on the Cunningham train.
A good way to frame how dumb this is if you did this 10 games ago, Jokic would be he would have no chance of getting to the 82 games, and Shea would be a lock to get it. So 10 games or 5 games ago, Shea was at 1 game missed. Yeah. So that's just a point. He's picking one random point in time and using it to extrapolate. Also, to be clear, if both of those guys miss, then our Lord and Savior Victor Wembanyama would still get the MVP over top of them. So I don't think that they're going to give the MVP to the 8th best player in basketball, but we'll see.
Porter, I haven't heard from you on this one, so why don't you go ahead?
I went too late. The guys covered everything. This is complete garbage data in, so you got complete garbage info out. The best way to use this data is to just not look at it. This is literally tells you absolutely nothing, and this is like how other I thought he was joking, but I realized Peanut Butter said that he was like a person through. I don't know what this is. This is nonsense.
I mean, he's got the Yahoo badge here, so
yeah, that's different usage of that word for this post.
Check out if you look at the Kalshi activity, people started hammering KBS when this tweet came out. Like it really
So that's the lesson to learn from here. That's the lesson. Let people move the guard.
Find the people who move the markets with bad information and set notifications so that you know.
It's like everything has an edge. Everything has an edge. This completely worthless piece of data, a sharp person can take advantage of it. It's just not the way they think.
So on to the point I brought up is that Doncic and Wemby at 64 and 63 in the section, like they're just off they're just off the quote unquote pace here. They are aware of this 65 game mark as well that they need to hit. So Wemby, who Wemby does some load management time to time. They don't play him every single game, but if he is about to lose out on the 65 game mark, they are not going to do that anymore. They are going to try and get him there because they know he might win. Well, he's going to win DPOY if he gets there. He might win MVP if he gets there.
Yeah,
no, for sure that's a component. That's like a small component. But the main component is that this data means nothing. He's just picking a weird segment of time to make this data say whatever. Yeah. Maybe he likes Detroit and wants this.
Like what you said, Jacob, I think is a way of person who is doing it smartly could miss, be like, okay, I'm projecting out these probabilities, and you don't take into account that later in the season they might try more, things like that. That's like a along the margins thing that actually is like could get missed. But his process is so bad in projecting it out. It's like, having a bad paint job on a car that doesn't run.
Right. All right. So maybe Cade, not the right bet unless you ask Joey Knish, of course. That may not have been the worst tweet I saw last week, because this tweet exists and to my surprise still existed when I went to go put together the show today. Buddy H. King, so at Lightbeer69, a burner account, but still, unfortunately there's a tragedy in the NFL this week. Rondale Moore sadly passed away at 25 years old. To honor him, this user posted "Rest easy, brother," with a photo of a jersey he bought because he won a same game parlay. And he shows the ticket here, the screenshot of the same game parlay he had on Rico Dowdle and Rondale Moore to score a touchdown in the same game. This is his tribute to Rondale Moore. Wow. People let him know this is a pretty horrific way to go about trying to honor a player. Mike, why don't you try to tackle this one first?
I'm going to tackle the part, the dark part that people don't want to talk about. The bet wasn't that good. It needs to be a better bet if that's how you're going to remember him.
Yeah,
There was a player, Stephen Kwan, he made a play that has won the amount of money that was very significant to me at the time. And I will always remember him that, even when if he does, God forbid, something happens to him, I'll always remember him through that bet. But $20 plus 2,100 odds, it's just not big enough for him to remember.
Yeah, not to unit shame. $450.
The odds are just as bad too. It's like it's not that you can hit a +2 like a 2,100 bet that big. Like if you hit 100 to 1, maybe you can remember him this way. But I just don't think that it's a good enough bet for him to do it.
Go ahead, Knish.
When I saw this slide, I said to myself, this is something that I thought would belong in the chopping block. That, if I recall, we voted to bring back this week, as one of our diehard fans said he wanted the chopping block back, and we were going to honor him with it. But it doesn't appear that the chopping block got reinstated this week against.
What was the vote? Was the vote 2-1? You and Mike against me?
Process where the vote said yes, we want it back, and it wasn't included. So I'm gonna pretend this is a chopping block segment, and that'll be it for me.
What you need to understand, Knish, is that there is a much larger thing going on behind the scenes that you could not possibly comprehend. That is why the chopping block cannot exist. I cannot go into detail live on air here, but just understand there is a very good reason why the chopping block doesn't exist. You're just going to have to trust me on this one. Getting back on the topic, Porter, have your say on this one here.
Oh, you guys left me a tough one. I think this is kind of as the guy wrote, rest easy, brother. I think this is a rest easy this segment on this topic.
If we still did have the chopping block, this would be good chopping block fodder, but we don't have it anymore.
It'll be back next week.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyways. Oh, we're having our fun here. Where you can also have some fun and get involved with the Hammer community is with the Discord that we have at the Hammer Betting Network. Now, I know you already know about it, but if you still aren't involved, then you are still missing out. We have nearly 1,800 members in the Discord. It's absolutely cooking. It's a place to chat during games, chat with our creators, where our creators are also sharing bets during games. You know what? A lot of our Hammer audience is sharing some banger bets as well. You can join us at discord.gg/hammer to see what you have been missing out on. The link is in the description to get involved with the Discord today. But we've arrived to the final piece on today's show. We have this one from Plus EV Analytics, who showcases some of the power of AI, which we spoke about quite a bit on this Friday show. But Plus EV says, pretty cool to be living in a time where this exists. Would I bet anything blindly on AI recommendations? Of course not, but with 1,000+ props on the board tonight, it helps me focus on areas to go deeper on. He showcases kind of where he's headed there. Porter, because we haven't heard from you on this, how much does AI factor into your day-to-day from betting, if at all?
So I have tried what he's done many times with ChatGPT just for shits and giggles, not really to use it, and you will see progress over the last 6 months. I still don't think this is that useful, but the change of what's coming is very obvious. And when people say using AI in sports betting, what they don't really mean using ChatGPT to type these lines in, because if you actually go through what's written here, it's kind of pretty low value. So I know what he's trying to say is look at the entire board and maybe this will give me direction. But the right way to use AI is you're supposed to prompt Claude into writing code, not typing into ChatGPT to give you a sentence that gives you an answer. So this isn't what it means to. So for the viewers that are thinking AI is coming to sports betting, it means coding with Claude. It doesn't mean type into ChatGPT, give me answer for best bet of tonight. And you know what? Maybe in a year or two, as this thing accelerates, it might be. But definitely today, it doesn't mean type into ChatGPT, give me answer for sports bet tonight.
That is to the penny my experience of when I was first using some AI models. I was like, can I just put in here this stuff doesn't work. It's garbage. It didn't give me anything. So yes, I agree. There is a steep learning curve if you want to get really good outcomes that are a little bit more detailed than what our friend Plus EV is doing there.
I'll defend him a bit here. It looks like he's putting in his projections to it and is just asking, based on the projections that he's made, where is something he should target? Where are the possible targets in the market? I don't think he's just blindly said where are the winning bets today or something like that. I don't think Plus EV would be that barbaric with it. It feels like it'd be much more sophisticated. And like you said, it's not blindly betting on the recommendations. Mike, do you have something to add?
This is one of the worst uses of AI possible because not only is he pulling up these bets that he's pulling up, they're determined. You could pull those up deterministically as good as you could. There's no need to use an AI thing to be what's my biggest edge here? You could put a pivot table in Excel and look at it. And I just don't understand. ChatGPT is doing nothing in that picture. The questions you can tell he's trying to have it answer are questions that you could you could say, hey, write me the script that pulls up my top biggest edges by rank, and it would be so much more effective. It's the wrong tool for what he's trying to do there. And it's if you ever are using these AIs, one of the areas they really mess up the most is trying to call things as far as numbers, because they just make up numbers. It's just the wrong way to use the data pretty egregiously. And Plus EV is a very smart guy and everything, all caveats aside, but it's a terrible use of AI.
I mean, I could see this working in 5 years, not this Like you cannot. I've tried this actually. I've tried to punch it in. It just says nonsense. Even when you give it like projections, it'll like spit something out, and then you literally type back, "I didn't. That's not in my projection. What are you talking about? Where did you get that?" And I'm like, "Oh, you're right. I don't know where I got that, but let me delete that."
Well, a major flaw with AI is that it must provide you an answer. It cannot come back at you and say. It won't, at least with the first prompt, it won't come back at you and say, I can't do this or I can't figure this out. It will manufacture an answer. If that means putting in falsified data, then it will do that.
But it could be the audience actually. Some people actually think this is what it means to use AI in sports betting. But from like people who sports bet at a higher tier, I've never heard of someone do it like this. It is meant like you code with Claude that helps you for information that you need, not punch in words and hope for final solution ChatGPT.
Even hallucinations aside, like you have to ask things the right question or use the right process for them to work. It reminds me of like when Google, like have you ever seen an old person use Google and they like ask the full typed out question and you're like, no, like just put 2 words. That's what you want to like look up there. It's like people don't know how to prompt it yet, and don't know like where its skills are and skills aren't. So I just the way it's being used there. Man.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good point. Of like people in Google type in like send me recommendations for the best restaurants, and then instead you could put I don't know, Smash Burger Toronto, and it'll give me a list of the best places in Toronto, something like that. Much more efficient that way.
Scary because the people who are growing up now, we're going to be like the people who learned it later in life. So like the people who are growing up with AI are just going to understand how to use it intuitively better than us. So in the end, we're all going to be plus EV getting cooked by AI.
I think, hey, maybe that's the case. Give us your thoughts on AI. And hey, a little teaser, potential new content to show. Something we do want to cover a little bit extensively in the future is AI in sports betting. You just have to wait and see on something like that. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you never miss out on any content we have coming your way. Also, make sure you drop a like if you enjoyed this edition of Circle Back. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you again next time.